Good job, Patty.
Seriously, I'm not joking.
You good? All right. We'll call this meeting of the Port of Hood River Commission to order. Our first order of business this evening, we're gonna move B to A and swear in two commissioners. Patty, you want to take care of that, please?
I don't care. Where do you want
You
this?
stand and raise your hand.
Okay.
And, or if you want to stand.
Are we just doing them simultaneous?
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
You can raise your right hand, please,
Okay.
and just repeat after me. I state your name,
Christy Chapman,
I, Tor Beaker,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly
do
swear
solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the
that I will
Constitution
support the Constitution
and the laws of the United States of America
and the
and
laws
laws of the United States
of America.
and the state of Oregon,
and the state of Oregon,
and will execute the duties
And
and
will
will execute the duties
of the office of Commissioner
of the
of the
office of Commissioner
of the Port of Hood River,
of the
Board of Hood River,
to which I have been elected.
to which I have been elected.
Great.
Thank you.
And we'll need your signatures and Patty will phone number.
Do you want me to sign right now?
Here, borrow your pen.
Welcome back, Commissioner Chapman. Thank you. Commissioner Beaker, welcome. There you go. All right, Kevin, are there any modifications to the agenda from staff?
None.
Anything from commissioners?
Nope.
Okay, then with that. In my very last act as president, I will open elections for Port of Hood River Commission offices and ask for a nomination for president of the Port of Hood River.
Nominate Heather.
I nominate Christy Chapman.
Second.
All in favor?
I,
I,
Aye as well. Congratulations, Madam President.
just like that.
Oh, goodness. Okay, and so now I guess next we need to do the office of the vice president. Can I get a nomination?
Recommend Heather Gehring.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations, Madam Vice President. Next we need to do secretary. And so I'll open that up for nomination for secretary.
I nominate Mike Fox as secretary.
I will second that. All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye. And then we need a nomination for the treasurer. Can I get a nomination?
I'll nominate Commissioner Beaker for treasurer.
Second. Best track.
All in favor?
I.
Aye. Any opposed? No? Good. Well, congratulations. And then Commissioner Shepherd, you'll be member at large.
Take
He gets all the stuff to do.
I know. Do we have any public comment, Genevieve?
Just the written public comment received and Abigail is here for later in the. agenda.
Yes. Okay, so that being said, we have a consent agenda. Was there any discussion about the consent, or can I get a nomination?
I've got two comments if I could.
Okay.
On the consent agenda, item C,
Mm-hmm,
approve appointment of Paula Rogers and the auditor company.
mm-hmm,
I understand this will be the last of a 5-year contract with this auditor. I'm reluctantly okay with extending this contract. I was frankly very disappointed in the auditor and the audit that we've had. It didn't find a lot of the things that we know is wrong with the system. And I would have expected them to be maybe a little bit more vocal for us. Has nothing to do with you whatsoever. I just think I'm disappointed, but I can understand that, you need some time to get an RFP. So I reluctantly agree extending it for 1 more year, but not 2. That's the one. The other one on the insurance policy with Chubb for the White Salmon Bridge.
Mhm.
We talked about that yesterday in the meeting, and we would like to have option 2, which is the $2 million coverage, that particular option be approved.
Okay. Does anyone else have any comment on that? And is everyone okay with the 2 million? Okay. Okay, then that being said, can we get a motion for the consent agenda with the option 2 million coverage for the insurance?
Oh, so motion.
Can I get a second?
Okay.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Consent approved with the 2 million coverage for insurance. Informational report. Anyone have any questions for Kevin or for Michael about the bridge replacement project update? Or anything that you want to share?
I would just make a suggestion. Could we show the video?
Since we didn't post it, the only way we could watch it right now is on our phones, unfortunately, can't
Oh,
cast
okay.
it, so, but we will.
Well, we had a visitor today. As most of you know, we've got the barge out in the river right now, and we're doing core sampling for the foundations. We had Representative Helfrich here today. And let's see, it was Geneva, Mike, myself, and Jeff went out on the barge and looked around. We took our camera person did an outstanding job, took a video and edited it down, and it's ready for NBC News. So that's the first of a few that we want to go after, and the others, why don't you give a brief line?
Yeah, so we've reached out to Senator Bonham as well as the co-chairs for the Joint Transportation Commission in Oregon to invite them to come out and just see the barge and see what we're doing and promote the project. And one other thing on the project, we did receive 3.6 million for a race grant. That will go towards kind of evaluating the bike pit facilities, making sure we have a good plan. It really was there to set us up for bigger implementation grants. But you have to have this action plan and planning document together first. But it could be as much as 25-30 million in a bigger grant down the road. So we're hoping that that'll come through. And we're in the process of submitting our big federal grants, which is the 200 million to the MPDG, which is the multimodal program. That includes 3 different grant sources, the infra, mega, and rural. And we're hoping to get something this year. We've strengthened our BCA. We think we've got a very good proposal this year. We've responded to all the comments we received last year. We think we're very well positioned this year to come through with some kind of grant from the feds this year. So
Great.
And the team's working very well with the treaty tribes to. It's one of the issues that held us back last time was, hey, we didn't have the EIS totally done and the treaty tribes weren't
Mhm.
on board. Well, we've done a lot of work on that. We actually got a letter of support from Nez Pierce that basically, and we're going for one for each of telling the federal government, hey, they don't see a problem in negotiating, we're proceeding. Don't hold back the grant because we don't have this. So that's kind of a big deal.
Great. Any questions? From the commission? Okay. Moving forward, let's go to presentation discussion items. I'd like to request to move item B up so that Abigail can give us her presentation and not stay for the rest of the meeting.
Yeah, it was nice that Abigail was able to come and join us this evening. As you know, the process in front of the city is really to reach out to those affected special districts. Since a little bit of our tax base will be going towards that into that urban renewal district. But there's also some impacts on the waterfront urban renewal district that had been closing about to close down. So there has been an effort to try to keep part of that waterfront urban renewal district open, or at least a portion of it. And so just asked Abigail to come and maybe just talk a little bit about the waterfront urban renewal district and how there might still be some opportunities there for areas around Lot 1 and some of the infrastructure. So Abigail, thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you, and I don't, first of all, it's nice to meet you. Congratulations on your reelection.
Thanks.
I am Abigail Elder. I'm the city manager. Happy to be here, and I did not bring you a presentation because you hear from me way too much. So you might remember, I think I was joined you in hopefully March or April, where we talked about the concept of the urban renewal district that the city has been pursuing on the west side. At that time, we were reporting the results of a feasibility study. Since then, we have fine tuned this, and of course, we'll have two representatives in Commissioners Chapman and Gary who have been present for a lot of those discussions. So just very briefly, from what you saw back in April, we have shrunk the size of the district. It's now looking at 406 acres. We have fine tuned the project list of what we think could be accomplished by that district, and are now in what's called the consult and confer part of the process. So we're hoping that if you have questions or comments, that you receive those by August 1st. City Council will be looking to hold a public hearing on August 14th to consider everything we hear back from the general public and the taxing districts. And then, assuming they want to move forward, Council will officially adopt the West Side Urban Renewal District on August 28th. Come on in. And then on August, there's 30 days before it was in effect, and then so it's September 30th, and then the district itself would formally start on January 1st. So that's the overview of West Side. Happy to answer any questions about general on that. But as Kevin mentioned, the council, actually the Urban Renewal Agency actually took action in June about the waterfront district. And so I know Commissioners Chapman and Gary were there, and I think you have gotten a short update on that as well. This was taking our current district, which was 109 acres, and we have shrunk it to 42 acres. You're allowed to do that in urban renewal if you remove acres that are non-productive. That means they're not generating tax revenue. So we removed the wastewater treatment plant, we removed the waterfront park, some other areas that are, public streets where the construction is not happening. We chose to leave, or staff recommended and the agency chose to leave Lot 1 in the smaller waterfront district, to have the option of if there was something wanted to happen there. That is, it's not producing tax revenue, so normally we would have pulled that piece out. But we left that in so that we can have a future conversation. So that's not to say that there's any kind of guarantee, it just simply does not preclude the possibility of something happening with Lot 1. Great. So that was a piece, that is what's called a minor amendment in the urban renewal process. So that was done through resolution at City Council. I gave Kevin a heads up and just have that ahead of time. But I brought a paper copy of one copy of the map. If you've not seen it. Or Kevin has this and can certainly share that back out with
But
you.
I make some copies.
Sure. Have you seen this before of the redefined district? Great. Thanks. You know what? That's West Side District. That's not. West
Oh,
Side.
never mind.
Sorry. I ran out of the office so fast. But Kevin has it and I'd be happy to read.
I can certainly get those out to you.
Sorry. But otherwise, I'd be happy to answer any questions about either West Side or waterfront. And then we said, looking for written comments about West Side before.
And I guess.
Comment, not a question.
Sure.
Go ahead if you can.
Well, I was just one of the things that's nice about this is that it allows a little bit of TI to accumulate over the next couple of years. And then as the KPFF project gets wheels, and that's where the commission ultimately wants to go. Or if there's modifications to the engineering around Lot 1, this could serve as a potential funding source, maybe in part to get that work completed. So
How, assuming that we go that way, let's say, what could this generate for us?
Wasn't it, what, just under $1 million a year total?
That sounds right.
Yeah, and I think it was gonna stay open for what, three more?
Actually, this year would be the last like kind of full year.
Okay,
So it's going to reach its maximum indebtedness, which is, that would be the trigger to normally close the district. And this year would collect most of that, and then I think there's a very small sliver, like 100,000 or less, that it would collect next year. And that would be the reason that it would close. So should the agency choose to keep it open, there's they'd have to do a major amendment, substantial amendment, which would mean going back to, I think, 3 of the 4 largest taxing districts for approval, and then also to add the project, if that was the project they chose.
So did and I plead ignorance on this whole thing,
It's so new to all of
but
us.
it sounds like that the maximum loan we would be able to obtain is $100,000. Is that the way I read this?
Yeah, I think the, what the agent, and I might have misspoken, tell me if I'm not answering correctly. I think the district, probably collects about $1 million, right? That's what the, this year, we'll collect that full amount. Next year, because we will reach the maximum indebtedness of the district, I think it's only about 100,000 that will go next year. And then normally it would close,
But if you make a major amendment,
right?
then it could go to whatever,
Then you can continue to collect it,
Can you
right? Whatever
collect
the
it,
new amount is, you know, whatever you choose to, whatever the agency chooses to keep as the maximum indebtedness, that's the trigger. The other piece that would have to happen is, or would be considered, is right now, agency has a resolution that all dollars go to the stormwater project.
Mhm.
And so that would continue unless their agency took an action to repeal that resolution and have a new project listed.
gotcha.
And so we would have to identify a project.
Yeah.
Before, and what's the time frame on identifying that project? When
That I
you're,
don't know, I mean,
Okay.
before the district were to close.
okay,
So there are 2 options. I think the one that you, Court had brought to the agency earlier was a new district.
mhm,
That's still, I mean, nothing that has happened precludes that opportunity. If you wanted to continue the current district, that would need to happen before it reaches their mind close next year.
okay, thank you.
okay, now I'm making a comment.
Yeah,
I know nothing's guaranteed and you're still having these conversations
Right.
and getting input, but
everything I say comes with 50
absolutely,
caveats.
of course it does. But getting to this point, I think it's commendable, the amount of inter-agency, intergovernmental collaboration that I'm seeing between port and city over the course of the last 6 months versus the 6 years before that. It's commendable, both it's really exactly what we
A lot
wanted to
of
see.
it is from- It's been super collaborative and very proactive with communication. I really appreciated working with Kevin and
Same here.
even all of the staff there.
Absolutely. Just impressed by it, so well done. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Commissioner.
Anything else? Any questions?
Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you so much.
And thanks for putting me earlier on the agenda, but you know, I watch all of your meetings.
You're welcome to stay, but
Thank you.
I just figured if you needed to get going, you could.
And thank you for your support. You know, I always say that you're really the experts in urban renewal in this town. And
Mhm.
It's been a textbook example of what success with urban renewal can look like. So proud to be part of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, discussion, commissioner and committee assignments, and that's Genevieve.
Yep, so just an internal discussion amongst yourself before our next meeting, included in your packet on page 125. Is all of our committees, internal and external, and who is serving on which of those committees. Traditionally, the commissioners will express their interest in serving on a committee to the president, who then puts together basically a slate of committee nominations for approval at our next meeting, which is in August.
Okay.
So that's it. It's just review that.
So
Well,
everyone should
Christy,
just
where do you
email
wanna
me.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Tell Christy which committee you want to serve on, and she'll have a recommendation for a slate next month. All right.
Okay. Executive director report, Greenwood.
Let's see, the main issue I wanted to just bring to your attention is that we have been getting a lot of complaints regarding homeless camps on port property. The port does own a few small parcels of land that really can't be developed, and they're kind of tucked away and out of the way places. And so today we had a really good planning meeting with the Hood River Police Department, Ally from the
Railroad.
Mount Hood Railroad was there. Karen from MCCAC, which is the community action group here in town. Kristen was in on that, as was Ryan. And really kind of went through a game plan of each step, what's going to happen with the notices. Looks like next Monday, we'll be posting notices at about 3 different locations around that site. And then there will be basically we'll come back the following Monday with the police department. And if they haven't moved out of there, then we'll hopefully encourage them to do so. We also will be reaching out to the biohazard company that did the cleanup down below Jamar. That actually ended up, the whole cleanup of that site was less than $900. If you remember, the cost estimate was $2,500. So they're a very good company, very trustworthy. And so we're going to reach out to them to hopefully get on site on the 24th, and they can rifle through whatever remains and bag up the stuff that needs to be kept for 30 days. And then get rid of the stuff that can just be disposed of. Kristen did inform us that we do need to hold on to this material for 30 days and basically post a notice at the end of the 30 days, letting people know that we'll be disposing of it. But I think it was all the players that needed to be involved were there. And I think that it was a pretty good learning lesson as far as for the future, if these things pop back up. We're also going to be putting some signs up, like no camping, no trespassing signs down there at the Jamar site. Our parking enforcement crew at the end of the hook and the maintenance crew, when they're at the end of the hook, can actually see that site. So that's one way that there can be some visual monitoring over there. And then once this happens, we just have to continue to stay on it, because if we ever let our guard down, then it gets harder and harder. So anyway, it was a learning experience for me, and it was great to be there with Kristen and Ryan. And so I think in the next couple of weeks, we should get some good results there.
The 30-day notice that you have to post, is that where you found the camp? Is that where you posted?
No, it's for their stuff.
I'm sorry?
It's for their
Yeah,
stuff.
there's kind of two, or there's the first notice.
The first notice is at the site, and then at the end of the 30 days, we would. It's not required, but it's good practice, post on the website, post in the paper, and we could post back up at the site, but ideally, no one will be there anymore.
So other than that, I think that's probably the most pressing thing that we were dealing with that wasn't already included in the packet. So unless there's any questions on the report, that's all I have.
Are we getting irrigation issues addressed? I keep getting asked.
I've got a couple, if I could.
Sure.
When I look at page 246, the airport area for Greg, I know you're gonna renegotiate the contract there out there. Have you given any thought to changing the fuel surcharge to a percentage instead of a nickel?
Yeah, well, the little bit of research, the industry standards about double that, 10 cents per gallon. And so the thought is to start with that rather than a percentage, but also included is transient fuel flowage. So when we have aircraft, like even the firefighting ops that are currently staged up at the North Apron, when they bring their own fuel tanks, apparently, and this has been, I was educated recently on it, it's a standard that you can charge for those flowage fees as well.
Yeah,
So there's
I really encourage you to rethink that 10 cents. I think you take the 10 cents, but calculate a percentage. And then start tying things to percentage. So as inflation goes up, inflation goes down, we get a piece of it, or we get charged a piece of it, but typically inflation's not going down. And that way we don't get ourselves back into kind of a problem later on that, 10 cents should have been 25 cents. So I'd really encourage you to think back and do it on a percentage basis. The other one at the airport, I know, and I support, the idea of getting some technical help in there. I guess we're gonna talk about that later.
Yeah.
Do you have a schedule for that as well?
That's
And we can talk
forthcoming.
about it then if you want.
It's, the linchpin in that is actually from the manufacturer, the supplier, the point of sale system. But the schedule as far as time tables rather than hard dates. Once that date is set, all the rest should plug in and play. So I'm waiting for that from PAE, which obviously when we get to action items of 7B, that's the contract that we're talking about.
Okay, and then out in Odell, we had a brief discussion about, getting the land fixed back up so we can start building something on it. And can you tell us your thoughts on getting that done and how
Yeah,
you're
that's
gonna do
what
it?
Greg and I have been talking about is either bringing a contractor in just to knock it out faster than what we could, being inexperienced in that type of work. I am talking to a contractor that does that type of work to try to figure out some costs and maybe a path forward on what the easiest way is.
Are you gonna put it out for bid?
We're discussing that.
If I may chime in, we did ourselves justice by doing part of the work ourselves, but when we had an engineered scope and calculated, say, cubic volumes of fill and all of that dialed in, we came through and did some of that stuff. So there's a little bit of piecemealing that we need to do to understand what the full scope is still necessary to be accomplished. And so I think Ryan's looking at his crew, what they can accomplish reasonably without the necessity of renting more equipment and such. And so the balance of how much can we push the ball before we need to go out for bid, but there is still enough work. It will have to go out for a proper bid.
If you're gonna have to go out for bid, then I would suggest you take a hard look at it. It may not be worth you messing with. Just go out for bid, get the right equipment in there, and knock it out.
Yeah.
You're not talking that big of a project there, but if you try and piecemeal it and use shovels instead of bulldozers, it's gonna take you a long time. And if we're trying to get that area cleaned up and ready to go, that we can build something on it before the season starts, we're almost pushing it now. And have we decided, are we gonna put little storage sheds and stuff out there? Have we decided that yet?
I don't know that we've decided that yet. The market analysis is still underway. And so some of the early, the draft analysis, we've had a chance, staff's had a chance to review, we've given comments back. And so there's some refinement as far as what they're going to come back to is the next task order in that project. But that's tracking to be, the final of that document is tracking to be in August. Probably towards the end of August, we'll have that document that will give us at least
Okay,
guidelines
so-
on
So
suggestions.
likelihood of doing anything really with it, it's not gonna be this year, it'll be next year. Let's see.
Yeah, I mean, but once the parcel is prepared, the site is ready, shovel ready, if you will. Yeah, we'll still need to go out for design plans and get some
Yeah,
site plans and
yeah.
everything start to
So-
work.
so
out,
the
which we can
target-
do in conjunction.
So the target is really to get the land done, prepped, ready to build this season. So by
Yeah.
September, we're done with that, right? Is that our plan?
I think that's a great goal. And in tandem, we can, once the commission's had a chance to review the options and has decided on what direction we want to move forward, whatever direction that may be. Then we can work in tandem to get the site plans through the county. And so that way come spring, we're in a position to actually start to come out of the ground.
Thank you.
Not to drag it on, 'cause it's not on the agenda tonight, but what precludes us from doing that now? Why can't we get site plans started now? That way, when we already know what we're gonna be doing once the land's ready.
We don't know what we want to build on it. The study won't be done until August.
And the site work will be done by then.
Probably not.
Should.
Just as long as we talk about that, just as soon as we
Well,
can, so we
yeah.
get moving on that part.
I think it'll be done by September. Will it be done by August? Probably not.
So,
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
ideally, the market analysis that we've in conjunction with Business Oregon will give us better indication on what the proper, I should say proper, what the most strategic way to move forward would be. I think we've discussed many options. And so looking forward to those final results. That way we can make third-party educated decisions.
Thank you. Anything else, Kevin, on your executive director report?
Not for me.
Commissioner committee reports, I believe, Ben, you've got one.
Just, I'd like to, we had a kiteboard for cancer event on the waterfront last week. And I'd like to ask Daryl maybe just to review that for us real quickly and let us know how that went.
Yeah, I think it went really well. The people that put it on were happy, of course, with the wind. So that was a good thing for their event. It was almost too much wind. We had a little sprinkler episode we worked through, but Ryan came in on Saturday morning and straightened that all out. And they had less people sign up ahead of time, but they were happy with the results of it. So I feel like the parking went the best that it ever has, which is usually the big problem with the event. So it's really good.
And the Downwinder Challenge, that's all week, correct?
Yes. That's challenging. We're in the midst of that right now. Parking
Parking.
is nuts.
I know.
Yeah,
There's some long roads.
yeah.
I went down there, it was fun and pretty smooth. Look, it was so great job staff,
Yeah.
whoever's involved in that. I mean,
Yeah, I talked to the person who's putting on the event last night. And he said on top of the 800 participants that he has, the event's being run out of Stevenson. And they're doing races from Stevenson to Home Valley right now. But we were having a huge influx yesterday into the port properties along the waterfront as well. And so I was talking to him about parking with that. He said what he has found that on top of his participants, there's another 800 estimated people here right now just to be part of all of the paddling. So it is by far the biggest event on the waterfront. And it does go all week. So the end of the week is when they hold their really big race. And there will be over 800 boats coming into the waterfront park. So it will be, it will be nuts.
Is that
in
on
there.
Friday or Saturday?
They're waiting to look at the wind
Okay.
forecast to call it. It'll probably either Thursday or Friday.
Thursday or Friday.
But all week long right now, we're just, we've got the most amount of people that could be parking on the waterfront. So we've got our
That's
hands
right.
full.
How about boat traffic coming into the marina? Do you expect it to go up or not?
No.
Okay.
But the paddlers are coming into the marina as well. They're coming in everywhere because there's so many.
Okay, so the one thing we've got to watch out for is that barge that's out there. And the tug comes back and forth, so maybe we need to give them a notice that there will be an increase of paddlers and be aware.
The tugboat driver has mad skills.
Yeah, and
I
they're.
watched him bring that barge in and 40-mile-an-hour gusts the other day, and he put that baby right up on the bank like nobody's business.
I also noticed the limits though, because he's bringing in another to help him get it from here to the Washington side. Like, yeah, I'm not on that. He's not with just one, so.
So think of this. A few years from now, there will be 12 barges, probably 3 times as big. And probably 3 to 5 tugs moving around out there every day.
Anything else? Any other committee reports?
Just like to mention, we did stand up the Hood River White Salmon Bridge Authority yesterday as our first meeting. We do have a cadre now and a quorum. We've got some really strong commissioners and alternates. And I think we got a good start. Senator King attended the meeting. And for the interim, Jake Anderson, commissioner from Klickitat, will be first chair. I will be the second chair. And then theoretically, at the end of 3 months, we'll swap over. But sometime in the next 6 months, we'll figure out, who's going to be the chair and the co-chair for a longer period of time, year at a time. So a lot to do. exciting time.
Okay. With that, we'll move to action items. Action item A is Mr. Gray.
Evening again, commissioners. Yeah, first action item that you have in front of you. Staff is making the recommendation that we award KPFF the personal services contract for design services for the East Anchor Way extension and First Street realignment. As discussed previously, staff worked through negotiations, really plussed up the site evaluation. The initial phase of the contract is going to provide more background on previous decisions, more background on circulatory issues and things in the entire area. So that way we have a better scope and basically an understanding and justification for this project moving forward. Once that portion is complete and on, I think, page 290, it shows a schedule, there will be a presentation to the commission prior to the project moving forward into 30% design. The reason being is then if there's any critical hurdles that they find in circulation or any other aspects that are down there that we should address first. It gives us the opportunity to press pause on the project, or we can decide to move forward in tandem, but it just gives us an opportunity to assess what the timing of moving forward with this project. And again, the justification to fully feel comfortable that this is it's an asset, or it's an improvement, I should say, and it's not necessarily based upon historic assumptions. It actually has some relevance to the benefit of Lot 1 moving forward. Having no program, it's kind of hard to read those tea leaves. But yeah, and so
So the deliverable you see at the end of the 2 years will be walked back to us.
the deliverable will be a full set of stamped permitted plans that are ready to go out for bid for construction.
For construction,
That's
so
correct.
it'll be, all the utility corridors and so on, excavation.
Absolutely.
whatnot.
As well as an engineered estimate for the construction costs. And there's also a component in the contract that KPFF will assist with that, the bidding process and the oversight of the construction. Not oversight as the project manager, but as a resource as their.
And as I looked at it in the tolling piece, and not tolling, the traffic piece of this. Can you explain a little bit of what they're gonna do against the entry and exit ways? What are they gonna bring back to us there? Something like, hey, if you add X hundred jobs in this area, we're gonna have to do something with the interchange.
Well, the IM, it dictates how many, the traffic counts, the interchange area master plan.
Right.
It dictates the traffic counts, it's already been set. So the initial thing is to get a snapshot of what the traffic count is now. We might have already reached that threshold, so it specifies some recommendations. We're not beholden to them, but ODOT has some recommendations on how we might mitigate traffic concerns. So part of the look is to update that to get a better idea of where we're at currently, and then do a kind of back of the napkin assessment of what options are there. Perhaps a traffic circle, perhaps we do need to adhere to right-hand turn only. This just to get some better guidance on what we should be expecting, because I think common sense would dictate why put all this effort into infrastructure and circulation for a lot that you can't really utilize unless you solve the initial problem. And so this is an opportunity for us to get better optics on what those problems could be, or what they will be, or quite honestly, what they already are. And then we can opt for a decision to move forward with some sort of a solution if we should.
Are you comfortable with the 2-year schedule?
I think so, yeah.
So when I look at it on a really gross basis, it's $480,000 or something like that. If you assume a fully loaded, including profit, person is a couple $100,000 a year. You're talking 2.5 people for 2 years. When I look at the workload in the sheets there, does that feel okay with you?
It does, and in fact, we did an ICE with ARUP, so we had another entity that performed an
You did
assessment.
say that.
Yep, and I think, KPFF has a little bit of a step ahead on this project because they did the initial drawings. They have an intimate understanding of the the project in and of itself. In fact, the 10%, to me, it feels like it's a little more than 10% drawings that we used for some grant applications. They have a good understanding of the area and the project, and so I think that that's where they can come in at a reasonable rate.
I'll tell you, I went through the document. I think this document is a good, solid document for going out for bid. I commend your work on this package. You did good.
Thanks, sir. I have to give a lot of grace to Kevin on that one.
And I think it's important to note, this contract is fully covered by a time-sensitive IOF grant, isn't it?
That is correct.
So this is a grant we need to
Well,
spend since it's gonna
time-sensitive
cover
might
this
be
entire
I
contract.
think it might be the coronavirus grant.
Yeah,
Is this,
Coronavirus grant,
Yeah.
it's one of
does
those
this
500,000.
schedule meet that?
it does.
Great. Any other questions? If not, could I maybe get a motion?
I move that we approve contract with KPFF for the AE design contract for East Anchor Way. For the cost associated in the package.
Second.
Any discussion? No, all in
I
favor?
just, I just want to add, I read through it and was really impressed too. Salient question that they can do it with the amount of money. But it looks like their first step is really to look at everything that was done historically, the studies and coordinate with ODOT and make sure that everything is gonna work. So that's exciting.
It's not a new study.
Right, it's not a new study. It's not a new study. Yeah,
Don't say that word.
yeah, cool, cool.
Okay, and all in favor? Aye. Okay, action item B.
Alrighty, second item we have. So the North Apron project, it's been completed. The fuel tank project through various issues has been delayed extensively, and it's a project that keeps rearing its ugly head back up. Essentially, staff has reached a point where realized that there's a limitation of expertise and knowledge with regard to the specific details and requirements needed to finish this project out. There's so many nuances to it that the realization that with something of such liability, safety concern, and costs, staff is requesting the opportunity to bring in PAE to button this project up, because it seems like, I mean, to be quite honest, every time you peel back a layer of the onion, there's a few more layers that you didn't anticipate. PAE's got extensive experience with fuel tank installs, and so the goal is to quickly move through this project to completion with the assistance of some engineering expertise.
Question for you, when can you come back to us with a schedule?
I was hoping to have a tentative schedule for you this meeting. I've reached out to PAE, but the point of contact, I think, is in the field today. So very quickly, he intended to have it to me yesterday. So it's something that I can have relatively quickly. Again, the one linchpin is the delivery date from the manufacturer of the point of sale system. One good thing about bringing PAE in on this is they have a really good working relationship with Mascot, the manufacturer. And I think that is going to grease the skids a lot more than just the customer bird dogging those guys.
Yeah, but we can do a lot of work in parallel.
Yeah,
And
sorry.
And you know, some of the concerns that I've got on that it would be nice to know that we don't have a blast zone issue, we don't have water intrusion issue, we don't have a flood control issue.
Yes, in fact, I talked to the fire marshal today to confirm much of that. He's going to send me his written notes, so that way we'll have much more confidence in those items, but they are certainly being addressed, and they were communicated to PAE, so they're aware, make sure that that box is checked, whether we need to do something or we're in good standing.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Offer the move to approve task order number 3. Professional services agreement with Precision Approach Engineering for consulting services on the fuel tank project out at the airport. For the document closed.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Bye.
Chair, aye.
Thank you, commissioners.
All right, item C, Mr. Shannon.
Yes, and this is just the toll rate increase that we've been talking about and
And this is the, just so that everyone knows, it's the handout that was on your desk. We had to change it, right?
Do you, you want to finish, you want background, or do you want to talk
Yeah, no.
specifically about the resolution?
I just want to make sure everyone was looking at the right resolution.
Right.
okay, yep, so the Bi-State Working Group held 2 public meetings on this to take to the public which option, option 1 or option 2. The result of those public meetings was overwhelmingly option 1. So that is the recommendation for the board to move forward with option 1 as a toll increase with the implementation September 1st of this year.
And then just a couple of clarifications on the resolution. So on section 1, you'll notice that there's a clarification as far as the purpose of the tolls to build the required cash reserves for federal bridge financing. That was a modification today. And then section 2 is just a more succinct statement that the incremental toll revenue from this 23 toll increase will be placed in the separate Bi-State Bridge Replacement Fund, which was the fund that was created during the budget process.
If we're gonna do that, why aren't we saying in number 2 that this will be administered by the new bridge authority?
So that's where the IGA will come through. So we could have really filled a lot of this into this
I
resolution.
understand, but we're also trying to find hands of the new authority with your first comment.
With the fact that it's being used to only for cash reserves.
What happens if there's an emergency and we have to tap into it? Or they have to tap into it? Got my port hat on.
Yeah, so I mean, that's a discussion with the full commission. I think that what we had heard through the public sessions was that there was really an expectation that that would be used to build up those
And I
reserves.
think that's absolutely true, and I believe that's the intent. But why hamstring the organization, make their organization responsible for that money? Why put strings on it from us? I don't understand that.
Not operating revenue for them. It is to build up a reserve for a TIFIA loan or any kind of federal loan. Is how it was presented and how. What we agreed
No,
to build. It's not an operating account. I'm sure there are other, ideas there for that kind of thing, which are not part of this, but.
I think if we talked about the other issues, that I think that makes this very powerful.
Yeah, I think that I think the court is all. And I speak for myself, supportive of making sure that we prop up that agency entity from the get-go to set them up for success and not have them be scrambling and trying to figure out how to, pay for insurance and pay for this and that. And so I know that this is just for the toll increase. And then I believe, from my understanding, from Kristen, is that the IGA will cover how this will work, how the transition happens, and what else the port can do to set the new Bi-State Bridge Authority up for success financially. But we have to explore those because we're not exactly sure what we're allowed to do. And so we just need to,
From my
They're gonna
understanding,
look
we're
into
gonna be hearing a presentation on it very soon on some options once.
Yeah.
Legal questions are answered that need to be done before we discuss it too much, I think.
So I have a question. Is this going to be, or as of right now, once this is implemented, is the only source of funding for the Bi-State Bridge Group, or are there other sources of funding.
Yeah, let me jump in.
Yeah.
There's other funding.
Okay.
This is a piece of it. If you think about the overall bridge at $520 million. Our target is $125 million from Oregon State,
Right.
$125 million grant.
Well, I know, I understand that. I'm talking about, in the short term, you're talking
Yes.
about operational
Yes,
monies. Like, how much money does the bi-state group have right now?
zero.
Zero. Okay, there is zero.
But maybe I can jump in if I can.
Yeah.
So right now, for instance, the lobbying.
Yeah.
So the lobbying is 99% on the bridge.
Yeah.
It's not reimbursable by those grants.
Right.
And so really most of the operating expenses are going to be reimbursed by these grants and appropriations. But there's going to be a subset, including the lobbying costs, that the port will likely continue to cash flow.
Okay.
And so one idea that's been bandied about is that we'll continue to do that with a 0% loan, but those are the types of things that we'll be looking at to try to make sure that those non-reimbursable expenses can continue to happen.
There's another issue that is floating out there, and we're not totally ready to detail it out, but there is a concern down the road 4 or 5 years. When we're heavily into construction and we're using federal grants to pay the bills. It's like some of the grants that we have here. You have to pay for the work and they pay you back. Okay, well, that's okay when you have cash cow that gives you that money. We don't have that on the bridge. So there is a thought down the road that we may have to tap into this reserve for a month to 3 months to offset that cash flow issue, and then it gets paid back when the grant comes in.
What would be the downside of just if that such an occurrence comes up? Requesting of the Port of Hood River, whose money this is, and putting in that spot that, hey, we need to do this, it's going back in a few months, is that okay?
I believe, in my opinion, I believe that should be the responsibility of this new agency to handle that. And I believe the port needs to step back away from that. You know, the port.
This is an IGA thing to figure out, though. This is
Yeah,
nothing to do.
that's-
This is just raising the
everything to
toll.
do
All we're
with
talking
this.
about tonight is raising the toll and putting the money aside only to what we told people that would be bridge replacement. We're not talking, this doesn't say anything else as far as who's managing what or how, what or anything. That's all IGA that comes next,
I understand.
right? That's all that is.
I just think we're trying to tie the hands of this new organization. We're trying to keep our finger in that pot, and I don't think that's proper for us to be doing, but that's my opinion.
You don't think if we give them $20 million for a sole purpose, that it should be used for that sole purpose, which is what they requested?
I think we give them the money that we agreed to do. We would set up this reserve. The intent is to go pay for your TIFIA loan. And that's what we've stated. And that's from the port going to this new authority. We've set up the accounts. They've got responsibility to manage that appropriately. Now, if they get caught doing something that's not right and the communities come after it, why should we be the policeman for that organization? We did what we said we're gonna do. We're putting the money into that account. It's up to them to manage it, and they're accountable for it.
I'm accountable to my constituents, so I tell them, I'm gonna raise your toll for this, and it's going to that. I'm accountable for that because that's Port of Hood River money.
Okay,
I mean,
I have to disagree with you.
Yeah,
on
and that's
that,
fine.
So,
Commissioner Beaker, are you up on why we gotta get to this number? So what we're talking about is increasing these tolls, putting them in a separate
Yes.
fund that is bridge replacement.
Yeah.
To qualify for a lot of federal loans, and correct me the moment I'm wrong, to qualify for a lot of federal loans, you have to show a community involvement, like, we did this as a community, we put this money here.
Right. to build
And
it.
it's for that, to qualify for a loan, correct? Okay.
Yeah,
Which is the last thing you do in a construction project is that loan part, correct?
yes.
Okay,
Typically.
so we're trying to build this number as fast as we can, so that it's
so
available,
we can qualify.
so we can qualify for a loan when it comes up. And
But that's a separate conversation.
that's all separate from tonight.
Then, well, this is a separate conversation than working with the new bridge authority on helping them to prop themselves up and setting them in a correct financial path without opening up this fund for future bridge authority
Right.
commission.
It's just
to
a
be
question
able
of how
to-
granular you want each resolution to be.
Yeah.
And you want this one to be pretty narrow.
Yeah.
This is what it's for, other discussions later.
Yes.
It makes it easier to get stuff done that way. So, yeah, I understand.
Any other questions or discussion?
I have a brief question. I'm just kind of curious about this. Is there a thought that before the bridge is actually built, maybe during construction, maybe before construction, that tolls will have to be raised again?
That. You want me to start on that one?
Let me see if we take the short answer. The answer is there's no intent to raise the tolls. For the new bridge on the old bridge prior to an opening of a new bridge.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no guarantee that it will not increase when the new bridge opens. That will
Sure.
be dependent on the funding sources that come in, costs, all kinds of variables. But yeah,
Okay. Great.
That becomes a point in time where it's not economical anymore.
Right.
Okay, without further discussion or questions, can I get a motion?
I move to approve. Excuse me. Wrong one. I don't know if I have the language in front of me.
It's just the title of the resolution.
Oh.
Your new
This one.
Move to approve, Port of Hood River Resolution number 2022-23-13.
No, this one.
That's the wrong one.
2023-24-1, excuse me. Reading the wrong. one.
Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Right.
Chair passes. Okay, and with that. We have any commission call. I will start with former president.
Yeah.
Benjamin Shepherd.
Nothing. Welcome, Commissioner Beaker. Good to have you.
Mr. Fox, do you have anything?
Nope.
Mr. Becker?
No.
No? Welcome. That's all I have to say. Any confirmation of commission directives to staff?
We have received that.
Okay,
I guess the only one that I kind of wrote down is just what comments, if any, do we want to submit to the city regarding the urban renewal? Do we want to submit anything to the city regarding their plan or?
that's for the west side.
Yeah,
I would offer up, I'd like to hear from our two members that are part of that board. Do they see anything that we should be suggesting?
I mean, at this point, it's still in kind of infancy stages. And so. That would be something I would want to think about. On if I had official port comments to the city. I might have my own personal comments. They might not.
I would just issue up that, you're a lot closer to it than I am.
Right,
So it may be worthwhile at a future meeting for you and Heather to bring forward what you guys are thinking, what you see coming out of this that would help us make a decision and a recommendation.
okay, I could think about that. And maybe work with Abigail a little bit to get some additional. Information on where they're at, but I mean, I would say the first comment I would say is that I'm super thrilled about the compromise. It seems like everyone's kind of winning with this new strategy. So in the short term, you can say that, but I'd be happy to put my thoughts together and I can share them with Kevin and he can pass them along and talk to Heather, maybe. She had to go. Sorry.
all right, well, shoot me some comments and I can, we can work
We
on
can-
a
We can
letter.
talk, yeah, I can do that.
That's the only other thing that I thought might be worth
Okay,
following up on.
well, if nothing more, we have no executive session, right? Okay, then I call this meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Good job.